Ambassador Song sat in her comfortable apartment on Haven Prime Station, watching the galaxy fall apart on her big screen. She had a cup of real Earth coffee in her hands. The coffee was now worth more than gold, because Earth had stopped sending it to alien worlds. 3 weeks had passed since Commander Lee walked out of the Galactic Council, and the chaos was spreading faster than anyone had expected. The first disaster came from the Rigel mining stations. Song remembered those stations. Well, she had visited them many times when she was trying to convince the Council to build proper defenses. The aliens who ran the stations had always said the same thing. Why build expensive defenses when humans will protect us for free? Now those same stations were sending desperate emergency signals into empty space. Breaking news, the crystal reporter said on the screen, her face flickering with worry. The Rigel mining stations have fallen to pirate attacks. Over 2 million alien workers are missing or dead. The pirates have stolen enough metal to build 1,000 warships. Song took another sip of her expensive coffee. She felt no satisfaction watching the news, but she also felt no guilt. The Rigel station managers had laughed at her warnings. They said human protection was cheaper than building their own military forces. They said they did not need to waste money on weapons when humans would always come to save them. Her communication device made a soft beeping sound. It was Commander O calling from the human fleet station just outside the old Council territory. Ma, we are getting 17 different emergency calls from the Rigel area. Should we go help them? Song said firmly. Let them solve their own problems, but there are civilians dying down there. O said, his voice tight with concern. Those civilians watch their governments treat us like disposable tools for 50 years. Song replied. Not one of them ever spoke up when the Council refused to give us fair treatment. Their suffering is sad, but it is not our job to fix it anymore. The news screen changed to show another crisis. The farming world of Verdania was having massive crop failures. Without human agricultural experts, the alien farmers had no idea how to use the advanced equipment that humans had built for them. Dr. Yu had tried to teach them the proper techniques 2 years ago. But the Council had said their own scientists could learn everything they needed without human help. Now entire populations were facing starvation because they had been too proud to listen to human advice. The advanced farming machines sat broken in the fields, while alien technicians stared at them helplessly. They had always assumed humans would be there to fix any problems that came up. Song's assistant Bei walked into the room carrying a huge stack of messages. Ambassador, we are receiving hundreds of requests for help. Food shipments, security forces, medical supplies. Everyone wants Earth to send aid immediately. Put all of those requests in the Not Our Problem file. Song said without looking away from the news, but some of these are from species that supported us in the Council. Bei said hopefully the Kepler colonies voted with us on trade issues. The vegan system supported our request for voting rights. Song turned to look at her assistant. How many times did the Kepler colonies vote with us? Bei checked his computer records twice in 50 years. And the vegan system. Once. Song nodded slowly. Twice and once. Out of thousands of votes where they could have supported human rights, they helped us 3 times total. And now they want us to risk human lives to save them. The third major disaster hit the shipping industry. Human pilots had been flying the most dangerous routes in the galaxy for decades. They navigated through asteroid fields and hostile territory that scared other species silly. Without human pilots, the trade routes between different parts of the galaxy started shutting down one by one. Captain Nam had been the best pilot in the merchant marine for 20 years. He used to fly supply runs to the most dangerous places in space for whatever small payment the Council offered. Now he ran his own private shipping company that only worked for clients who could afford premium rates and treated human crews with respect. The waiting list for his services was 6 months long. While wealthy systems could still get supplies delivered, the poorer worlds watched their economies collapse. Ships full of food and medicine sat in spaceports because no alien pilot was brave enough or skilled enough to fly them through dangerous space. Song switched to another news channel where a panic-stricken alien reporter was trying to explain the crisis. The transportation network that connected our galaxy for centuries is breaking down. Entire star systems are being cut off from trade. Supply lines that took generations to build are disappearing overnight. The reporter did not mention that those supply lines had been maintained by human pilots who were paid almost nothing for risking their lives in the most dangerous regions of space. The aliens had always assumed the humans did it because they enjoyed the challenge, or because they were too stupid to demand better payment. By the end of the third week, 3 different government alliances had completely collapsed. 2 major trade organizations had declared bankruptcy. Dozens of star systems had descended into civil wars as different groups fought over the remaining resources. Song watched it all from her comfortable apartment, drinking her expensive coffee and feeling like she was watching a story about strangers. The galaxy that had used humanity for 50 years was learning what life was like without human help. The lesson was harder than anyone had expected. Her communication device beeped again. It was Dr. Yu calling from Earth. Song. The agricultural crisis is getting worse. Every day I get more desperate messages from worlds that are facing starvation. They are offering me anything I want if I will just come and fix their farming systems. What are you telling them? Song asked. The same thing you are telling everyone else. They had decades to learn proper farming techniques from us. They chose not to learn because they thought we would always be available to solve their problems for them. Now they can figure it out themselves or suffer the consequences. The news switched to a report about the plague that had started on Vega Prime. The same plague that human doctors had cured 15 years ago. The vegan government had kept all the human medical research secret, refusing to share it with other worlds because they wanted to maintain their competitive advantage. Now the plague was spreading to other systems, and the vegan doctors had no idea how to stop it because they had never bothered to understand the human cure. Song turned off the news and walked to her window. She could see alien ships arriving at Haven Prime every hour. Most of them carried refugees fleeing from the chaos in their home systems. Others carried diplomats hoping to negotiate new deals with Earth. All of them looked desperate and frightened. 3 months ago, these same aliens had treated humans like servants. Now they were begging for human help and offering to pay prices that would have seemed impossible before the crisis. The irony was not lost on Song. For 50 years, the galaxy had gotten human expertise almost for free. Now they would pay 10 times more for a fraction of what humans used to provide, and many of them would not get any help at all because Earth was being very selective about who deserved assistance. She picked up her coffee cup and raised it toward the window where she could see another alien refugee ship requesting permission to dock. To 50 years of being taken for granted, she said quietly, and to them, finally learning what they lost. The galaxy was changing fast. The old system where humans did most of the work while aliens made most of the decisions was gone forever. What would replace it remained to be seen, but one thing was certain. The new galaxy would be very different from the old one. Song finished her coffee and went back to her desk. There were more reports to read, more disasters to ignore, and more desperate aliens to disappoint. It was going to be a very busy day. 1 year after humanity departure, former council speaker Mordan sat alone in his vast office, staring at reports that painted a picture of galactic civilization in complete collapse. His 4 arms that once gestured grandly at assembled representatives from 1,000 worlds now hung limply at his sides as he contemplated the magnitude of what had been lost forever. The numbers were beyond anything anyone had imagined. 47 star systems had completely collapsed, their governments unable to maintain basic services without human technical support. The Galactic trade network had shrunk by 60% as shipping companies refused to navigate dangerous routes that human pilots once flew without hesitation. Most devastating of all, the pirate attacks that humans once contained had evolved into a full-scale insurgency that threatened the very concept of interstellar law. "Your Excellency," his aide whispered, approaching the desk carefully. "The emergency session is ready to begin." Dan looked through his office transparent wall at what remained of the once mighty Galactic Council. Where 1,000 species representatives once stood, proud only 200 remained. Many systems had withdrawn from the council entirely, either joining smaller regional groups or attempting to manage their affairs independently. Others simply lacked resources to maintain diplomatic missions after their economies collapsed. How many humans have responded to our invitation? Mordan asked, though. He already knew the answer. None, Your Excellency. For 12 months, the Council had sent increasingly desperate messages to Earth, offering concessions that would have seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. Complete autonomy for human colonies. Exclusive. Human control over all military operations. Even the dissolution of the Council itself and reformation under human leadership. Every offer had been politely declined or simply ignored. More, Dan entered the great chamber where he once presided over the galaxy's most important decisions. The vast space designed to accommodate thousands of representatives now felt empty and hollow. The few remaining delegates sat clustered together in the front rows, their various forms huddled like survivors of a great disaster. Fellow beings, Dan began, his voice echoing in the nearly empty hall. We gather today to confront a harsh truth. The galactic civilization we built over centuries is ending. Murmurs of despair rippled through the sparse audience. Some representatives wept according to their species' customs, while others maintained stoic silence. Everyone understood that they were witnessing the end of an era. The humans are not coming back, he continued. We must abandon any hope that they will rescue us from the consequences of our own actions. We taught them for 50 years that partnership meant servitude. We showed them that gratitude was weakness. We demonstrated that good deeds would be punished with greater demands. Delegate Corvith of the Rim Worlds raised a trembling appendage. But surely they cannot simply watch billions suffer. Their own moral code demands they help those in need. Mordan's laugh was bitter. Their moral code. We spent 50 years teaching them that moral codes are luxuries only the strong can afford. We showed them that goodwill is wasted on those who do not appreciate it. We demonstrated that no good deed goes unpunished, and no sacrifice is acknowledged. On Earth, Dr. Park, now Director of the Human Heritage Foundation, read the Council's latest message with mixture of sadness and vindication. The message marked final appeal, offered humanity complete control over galactic civilization in exchange for intervention in the growing humanitarian crisis. They are offering us everything, her assistant Ms. Hahn observed. Total authority, unlimited resources, recognition as the dominant species in the galaxy. Dr. Park deleted the message without finishing it. They are offering us the chance to be responsible for cleaning up their mess. Again. They want us to save them from problems they created through their own arrogance and stupidity. But the suffering will end when they learn to solve their own problems. Dr. Park said firmly, we cannot save beings who refuse to save themselves. We tried that for 50 years, and all it did was make them more dependent and more ungrateful. The transformation of human society had been remarkable. Free from the constant drain of galactic obligations, Earth colonies had flourished. New technologies emerged monthly from research facilities no longer required to share their discoveries freely. Human art, literature, and philosophy experienced a renaissance as creative minds focused on human achievement rather than alien crisis management. Most importantly, human children were growing up with sense of self-worth that their parents never knew. They learned that their value did not come from their usefulness to others but from their inherent dignity as human beings. Schools taught human history and human culture, instead of spending all their time preparing students to serve alien needs. Captain No, patrolling the borders of human space in the newest class of starship, received daily reports of alien ships attempting to breach the quarantine zone around Earth territory. Most were refugees seeking sanctuary, but others were military vessels on missions of espionage or desperation. Another hegemony cruiser requesting permission to enter human space. His communications officer reported, they claim to have critical intelligence about collective war plans that could prevent a massive genocide. No had heard variations of this story dozens of times. Always the aliens claimed to have information vital to preventing some catastrophe. Always. They insisted that only humans could solve the crisis. Always they promised that this time would be different, that they had learned their lesson and would treat humans as true partners. Standard response. No ordered. Direct them to the Galactic Council for resolution of their concerns. "Sir, there is no functional Galactic Council anymore. The last session ended with only 50 delegates attending. Then they will have to create something that actually works." The reports, filtering in, told the story of final collapse. The war between the hegemony and collective had spread to involve dozens of smaller powers. The agricultural disasters had led to mass starvation on hundreds of worlds. The transportation breakdown had isolated entire sectors from galactic commerce. The plague outbreaks had overwhelmed medical systems that had never learned to function without human expertise. Yet humanity watched it all with the detached interest of adults observing children, who had finally been forced to face consequences of their actions. There was no joy in the suffering, but there was recognition that some lessons could only be learned through painful experience. The galaxy would rebuild eventually. New alliances would form, new technologies would develop, new forms of government would emerge from the chaos. But it would be smaller, more fragmented galaxy that had learned too late the difference between partnership and exploitation. Back in his empty office, Mordan composed what he knew would be his final message to Earth. He had nothing left to offer, no more concessions to make, no more promises to break. The council that had once ruled a galaxy of 1,000 species was dying, and everyone knew it too. "The people of Earth," he wrote, "I do not ask for your help, I do not offer you rewards, I simply want you to know that we understand now what we lost. We had partners who would have died for us, and we treated them like servants. We had allies who would have stood with us forever, and we used them like tools. We had friends who asked for nothing but respect, and we gave them nothing but demands." He paused, looking out at the empty chamber where so many momentous decisions had been made, where so many alien species had gathered to solve galactic problems, where humans had stood so many times offering their lives for others' benefit. "We lost you through our own arrogance and pride," he continued, "and in losing you, we lost everything else. The galaxy you helped us build is gone. The peace you helped us maintain is shattered. The future you helped us secure is destroyed. We did this to ourselves, and we will live with the consequences forever." Mordan sealed the message and sent it, knowing it would likely be deleted unread like all the others. But he had needed to say it, had needed to acknowledge what everyone now understood. Some opportunities once lost never come again. Some relationships once broken cannot be repaired. Some trust once betrayed cannot be restored. The age of galactic unity was over. The age of human partnership had ended before it ever truly began. And the galaxy would spend generations learning to live with what they had thrown away in their moment of supreme arrogance, the I. Humans were never coming back, and everyone finally understood why. Chancellor Ryu stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the endless stream of alien ships approaching Earth. 2 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council, and now every day brought new visitors. Unlike the proud delegations that used to come demanding human services, these ships carried desperate refugees, panicked diplomats, and increasingly frantic pleas for help. The aliens who once barely acknowledged human existence now waited for hours just to get a few minutes. With any Earth official ships that used to dock at Earth stations with arrogant demands, now sent humble requests for permission to approach. Many were turned away without even being allowed to land. Lieutenant Zhang said, walking up to the Chancellor with his daily report. "The pirates who took over the Rigel stations are offering to surrender. They want to give back all the prisoners and stolen materials in exchange for safe passage back to their territory." Yu was not surprised. The pirates had grabbed far more territory than they could actually control. Without human forces to fight against them, they had thought conquering the galaxy would be easy, but easy victories had made them lazy and weak. When desperate aliens finally started fighting back properly, the pirates discovered they were not as tough as they thought. "What does the Council want to do about the pirate offer?" Ryu asked. "They rejected it," Zhang replied. "The speaker said surrendering to pirates would be dangerous. He wants the pirates to give up completely and face trial for their crimes." Yu almost laughed. The Council still acted like they were in charge of the galaxy. They still thought they could make demands and expect others to obey. How many ships does the Council? How that could actually force the pirates to surrender unconditionally? Maybe a few hundred patrol craft scattered across different systems. Zhang said, "Nothing that could challenge an organized pirate fleet." The Chancellor watched another alien ship dock at the station. Through the clear walls, he could see elegantly dressed aliens who used to ignore humans completely. Now they waited nervously for meetings they hoped would save their civilizations. These same aliens had once acted like granting humans an audience was a great favor. Dr. Han approached with her medical report. Chancellor, the plague that started on Vega Prime has now spread to 47 systems. The alien medical authorities are begging for help from our pandemic response teams. What kind of plague is it? Ryu asked, though he already suspected the answer. It's a mutated version of a virus that human doctors successfully stopped on Vega Prime 15 years ago. The local health officials never learned our treatment methods, because they assumed we would always be available to handle future outbreaks. The irony was bitter. Human doctors had saved Vega Prime from this exact same disease, but the vegan government had classified all the human medical research as top secret. They refused to share the cure with other systems because they wanted to keep their competitive advantage. Now their secrecy had doomed dozens of worlds. Sir Communications. Officer CO interrupted. We are receiving another emergency request from the Galactic Council. The speaker wants an immediate meeting with Earth leadership. Ryu checked his watch. That was the third emergency meeting request this week. What crisis does he want to discuss now? The collapse of the Andorian Defense Pact, SEO. Reported without human peacekeepers to stop their territorial disputes, 3 major military powers are preparing for war. The Council estimates the conflict could kill over 1 billion people. The Chancellor remembered the Andorian situation very well. For 30 years, human diplomats and peacekeepers had kept 3 aggressive alien species from destroying each other. The aliens had treated this as just another routine human service, never bothering to develop their own ways of solving conflicts peacefully. What exactly does the speaker want from us? Ryu asked. He is offering to give humans full voting rights in the Council in exchange for immediate help with the Andorian crisis. Lieutenant Zhang looked up from his datapad in surprise. Full voting rights. That is what we asked for during decades of Council membership. Yes, Ryu agreed slowly. And notice, they are only offering it now when they are desperate. They are not giving us equal treatment, because it is right. They are offering it as payment for services. Dr. Han frowned. But if we could save 1 billion lives, could we really? Ryu challenged. The Andorian species have been building up for this war for decades. Human peacekeepers only delayed the inevitable. How many human lives should we sacrifice to buy them a few more years before they fight anyway? The Chancellor turned away from the window to face his staff. Each person in the room knew that their decisions would affect the fate of entire civilizations. But they also remembered decades of being treated like hired help. Their sacrifices had been taken for granted and their needs had been ignored. Send a message to the speaker, Ryu ordered. Tell him that Earth appreciates the offer of voting rights, but we are no longer interested in Council membership. If the Andorian species want peace, they can negotiate it themselves like adults, as his staff moved to carry out his orders. Ryu stayed at the window, watching the alien ships that continued to arrive with increasingly desperate requests. One ship carried refugees from a system where the government had collapsed. Another brought diplomats offering their entire planetary treasury for just one human agricultural expert. The most pathetic sight was a ship from the hegemony, carrying their crown prince. The same royal family that had refused to attend human memorial services for soldiers who died protecting hegemony colonies. Now their prince waited in line like everyone else, hoping to buy human assistance. We are also receiving requests from some of the species that occasionally supported us in Council votes. Dr. Han said, hopefully, maybe we should consider helping them. How often did they support us? Ryu asked. The Altarian Federation voted with us on colonial rights twice in 20 years. The Centauri Alliance supported our trade proposals once in 30 years. Dr. Han checked her records, twice in 20 years, and once in 30 years, Ryu repeated, and they want us to risk human lives to save them based on that level of support. The Chancellor thought about all the times human diplomats had begged these same species to support basic human rights. All the times they had been told that human concerns were not important enough to risk alien political relationships. All the times they had watched aliens vote against human interests because it was more convenient. The hardest part was knowing that billions of innocent civilians would suffer because their leaders had made bad choices. But Ryu also knew that rescuing them would only teach the galaxy that they could continue treating humans badly, because humans would always come to save them in the end. Sir, another message from the Council SEO reported. This one is marked as absolutely final. Emergency. The speaker says the entire galactic economy will collapse within 6 months without human intervention. Ryu deleted the message without reading it. If the galactic economy cannot survive without exploiting human labor, then maybe it deserves to collapse. He looked out at the alien ships one more time. Many carried beings who were probably good people, caught up in their government's mistakes, but their governments had chosen to treat humanity as disposable tools rather than equal partners. Now everyone had to live with the consequences of that choice. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about the difference between partnership and exploitation. The lesson was more expensive than anyone had expected, but some lessons could only be taught through experience. Send a general message to all the ships requesting aid, Ryu said. Tell them that Earth wishes them success in solving their problems through their own efforts. As the message went out, Ryu could see the alien ships beginning to turn away from Earth space. Some headed back to their home systems to face whatever disasters awaited them. Others set course for different parts of the galaxy, hoping to find help elsewhere. The age of humans, as the galaxy problem solvers, was truly over. What would replace it remained to be seen, but it would be built on very different principles than the old system. For the first time in 50 years, humans were putting themselves first, and the galaxy was discovering how much they had depended on human generosity that they had never bothered to appreciate. Fleet Admiral Cho commanded the most powerful military force in the galaxy, from her flagship orbiting Proxima Centauri. 6 months had passed since humanity left the Council, and the irony was not lost on her that human naval power had actually grown stronger. Without having to scatter their forces across hundreds of alien conflicts, Earth military had consolidated into a formidable defensive network around human space. Admiral Captain Yoon reported from his station. Long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements in the outer rim. The hegemony is moving against the collective with everything they have. Cho studied the tactical display showing 2 enormous alien fleets approaching each other. The 2 largest military powers in the galaxy had finally decided to settle their ancient territorial disputes through warfare. The projected casualty numbers were staggering, but she kept her face calm. What is the estimated strength of each fleet, she asked. The hegemony has deployed 8,000 ships. The collective is responding with 12,000 intelligence reports suggest both sides are using advanced weapons technology they kept secret for decades. Weapons they never revealed while hiding behind human protection. Cho thought bitterly. She wondered how many human lives could have been saved if they had known about these secret weapon systems during joint military operations. For decades, these aliens had pretended to be helpless while secretly building massive war machines. Ma-M Communications Officer Lieutenant Young interrupted. We are receiving a joint distress signal from both fleets. They are requesting immediate human mediation before the shooting starts. Now they want mediation. Cho muttered. For 40 years she had watched human diplomats try to arrange permanent peace talks between these 2 powers. Every attempt had been sabotaged by one side or the other, who preferred using human military presence as a buffer while they prepared for eventual war. What should I tell them? Admiral Cho considered the implications carefully. The war between the hegemony and collective would likely drag dozens of smaller powers into the conflict. Trade routes would be destroyed, colonies would be devastated, and the refugee crisis would be unprecedented. Yet she also remembered decades of aliens refusing to make real peace while demanding human protection. Tell them that Earth wishes both parties success in resolving their differences through direct negotiation. Captain Yoon looked shocked. Admiral, our projections show this war could destabilize the entire galactic economy. Then perhaps they should have thought of that before spending decades preparing for war while pretending to want peace. Cho replied firmly. Meanwhile, on the civilian front, Earth economy was experiencing unprecedented growth. Dr. Shin, head of Earth New Selective Aid Corporation, reviewed the quarterly reports with satisfaction by offering their expertise only to those willing to pay premium rates and treat human personnel with respect. Earth had transformed from being taken for granted to being valued as indispensable partners. The Kepler colonies are offering us exclusive mining rights to 3 asteroid belts in exchange. For agricultural assistance, her assistant Ms. Lim reported, the vegan system is proposing a joint research venture with full intellectual property sharing. Dr. Shin nodded approvingly. These were the same systems that had previously demanded human help while offering minimal compensation. Now they were learning that expertise had a price and respect could not be assumed. The transformation was remarkable. What about the council? Latest proposal, Dr. Shin asked. They are offering us permanent seats on all major committees, full voting rights for all human representatives, and a guarantee that human colonies will receive priority in trade agreements. It was everything humanity had asked for over 5 decades of council membership. But Dr. Shin knew it was too late. The offer was not being made out of recognition of human equality, but out of desperate need for human capabilities. And in exchange, they want us to restore full military and civilian aid to all council members effective immediately. Dr. Shin shook her head. They still do not understand. They think this is a negotiation where they can offer us what we wanted before in exchange for returning to the old system. They cannot comprehend that we are simply not interested in being part of their system anymore. The final piece of the new reality became clear when Captain Kim, daughter of former Ambassador Lee, returned from a successful mission protecting a human merchant convoy through what was once council space her ships represented. The newest class of vessels built with technology that humans had been slowly developing, while aliens focused on political maneuvering. The convoy reached its destination safely. She reported to her father via secure transmission. We encountered 3 separate pirate groups, but our new shielding technology made their weapons essentially useless. Lee felt surge of pride not just in his daughter competence, but in what humanity had achieved, free from the obligation to constantly rescue others. They had time to advance their own technology, strengthen their own society, and build something uniquely human. Any requests for assistance from local populations? He asked. Several, Kim confirmed, but we followed protocol. We informed them that Earth Selective Aid Corporation offers security services to qualified clients and provided them with the application requirements. The irony was complete. The aliens who once took human help for granted now had to prove they deserved it. Applications for human assistance required detailed explanations of how the requesting species had supported human rights in the past, what fair compensation they were offering, and most importantly, how they planned to solve their own problems in the future without depending on human aid. Dr. Yu, the agricultural expert who had tried to teach alien farmers proper techniques years earlier, was now the most sought-after consultant in the galaxy. Her services were booked solid for the next 2 years, but only for clients who met her strict requirements: fair payment, respectful treatment of human staff, and mandatory training programs, so aliens could eventually handle their own agricultural needs. The waiting list for human services grew longer every day, while some wealthy systems could afford premium rates for human expertise. The majority of alien worlds found themselves cut off from the technological and military support they had depended on for generations. Captain Nam, former merchant marine pilot, turned private shipping magnate, had expanded his company into a fleet of 200 ships. His crews were the highest paid in the galaxy, and his ships flew only the most profitable routes. The dangerous supply runs to desperate colonies that he used to fly for almost nothing were now either impossibly expensive or simply unavailable. The transformation of human society was remarkable. Children growing up on Earth and human colonies learned that their value did not come from their usefulness to others but from their inherent worth as human beings. Schools taught courses on human history that had been neglected during the decades of galactic service. Young people pursued careers in art, literature, and philosophy, instead of constantly training to solve alien problems. Most importantly, humans were developing a sense of pride and self-worth that had been missing for generations. They were no longer the galaxy janitors cleaning up everyone else's messes, They were partners who demanded respect or they walked away. Admiral Cho received daily reports of alien ships attempting to breach the security perimeter around human space. Most were refugees seeking sanctuary, but others were military vessels on missions of espionage or desperation. Another hegemony cruiser requesting permission to enter human space. Her communications officer reported, they claimed to have critical intelligence about collective war plans that could prevent a genocide. Cho had heard variations of this story. Dozens of times. Always the aliens claimed to have information vital to preventing some catastrophe. Always they insisted that only humans could solve the crisis. Always they promised that this time would be different. Standard response, Cho ordered. Direct them to the Galactic Council for resolution of their concerns. So there is no functional Galactic Council anymore. Then they will have to create one that works. The galaxy was rebuilding, but on very different terms than before. New alliances formed between species that had learned to cooperate without depending on human intervention. New technologies developed as aliens were forced to innovate instead of waiting for human solutions. New forms of government emerged from the chaos of collapsed systems, but it was a smaller, more fragmented galaxy than before. The grand unity that the Galactic Council had represented was gone forever. In its place was a patchwork of regional powers, competing alliances, and isolated systems, struggling to survive. Humanity watched it all with the detached interest of adults observing children who were finally learning to take care of themselves. There was no joy in the suffering, but there was recognition that some lessons could only be learned through experience. The age of humans as the galaxy servants was over. The age of humans as equals had begun. Commander Lee walked slowly down the long hallway toward the Galactic Council chamber. His black military boots made soft sounds on the shiny floor that reflected the strange alien lights above him. Captain Park walked beside him, her face showing no emotion, but her hands were tight fists at her sides. They had talked about this moment for months, but now that it was here, Lee felt his heart beating fast in his chest. The huge doors to the council chamber opened with a deep humming sound. The room was enormous, with seats rising up in circles like an ancient theater. But instead of humans watching a play, there were hundreds of different alien creatures all talking in their weird languages. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others had scales or fur or skin that changed colors. Many had more eyes than humans or no eyes at all. Lee had been coming to this chamber for 15 years. He had stood in the center many times reporting on battles he had fought for these aliens. Wars where human soldiers died to protect alien colonies that most humans had never even heard of. He remembered the first time he came here as a young lieutenant, how amazed he was by all the different species. Now all he felt was tired. The council speaker was a tall blue creature with 4 arms and a voice like thunder. He hit his long metal staff on the crystal floor, making a ringing sound that echoed through the huge room. All the alien chatter stopped, and hundreds of strange eyes turned to look at the 2 humans standing in the center. The speaker pointed one of his 4 arms at Lee. Commander Lee of Earth, the mining colonies in Sector 7 are being attacked by space pirates. Your human warriors must go there immediately and stop them. Many innocent aliens will die if you do not help them. Lee had heard these words so many times before. Always there was some crisis somewhere in the galaxy. Always the aliens expected humans to drop everything and rush to save them. Always they acted like humans had no choice in the matter. He thought about his daughter Kim back on Earth. She was 12 years old now, but he had missed most of her childhood fighting in alien wars. No, Lee said. The word came out quiet, but it seemed to fill the entire chamber. Every alien stopped moving. The tentacles stopped waving. The scaled creatures stopped breathing. The ones with changing skin all turned the same shocked color. Lee had never said no before. No human had ever said no before. What did you say? The speaker asked, his forearms shaking. I said no. Lee repeated louder this time. We will not go to Sector 7. We will not fight your pirates for you. But another alien called out from high up in the seats, his voice coming through a machine that translated his words. The Corvin system needs food. Human farming methods could save millions of our people. Captain Park stepped forward, shaking her head. Find another way to save them. The chamber exploded into noise. Aliens were shouting in languages that sounded like music or grinding metal or wind blowing through caves. Some were hitting things against their seats. Others were waving their arms or tentacles or whatever they had instead of arms. Lee stood in the middle of it all, feeling strangely calm. For 50 years, he said loudly, and his voice cut through the noise like a knife through paper. For 50 years, humans have fought and died for this council. We have used our ships, our weapons, our soldiers to keep peace in the galaxy. We have given you our best technology to help your worlds grow food and cure diseases. We have asked for almost nothing in return. The speaker hit his staff on the floor again, trying to get control of the room. Humans have been paid well for their services. Lee laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Paid well, he said. Do humans have voting rights in this council? Even though we do most of the fighting? No. When we ask to trade with your worlds on fair terms, what do you say? No. When our colonies need help with disasters, do you send aid? No. But when pirates attack your worlds or diseases spread on your planets or your food crops fail, who do you call? The aliens were getting quieter now. Some of them looked uncomfortable, like children being scolded by their parents. You call humans, Lee continued, because you know we will come. You know we will fight and die and solve your problems and ask for nothing but basic respect. And what respect do we get? None. You treat us like servants, like tools you can use and put away when you do not need them. Captain Park walked over to stand right beside Lee. Her voice was clear and strong when she spoke. We are not your servants anymore. We are not your tools. We are done being the galaxy fighting force while you sit safe in your council chambers making decisions about our lives. The speaker tried to sound commanding, but Lee could hear fear in his voice. You cannot abandon your duties to the galaxy. The peace depends on human protection. Then maybe you should have thought about that before treating us like hired guns instead of partners. Lee said. He turned to look up at all the alien faces staring down at him. From now on, Earth is taking care of Earth. Human colonies will trade with whoever treats them fairly. Human ships will protect human interests. Human soldiers will fight for human causes. But what about us? A small alien near the back called out. What happens to our worlds without human help? That is your problem to solve. Lee answered. Find your own solutions. Train your own armies, make your own peace, build your own future. Stop expecting others to do it for you. The speaker was desperate now, his forearms waving wildly. Without humans, the outer colonies will fall to pirates within days. Trade between worlds will stop. Wars will break out everywhere. Maybe they will, Lee said calmly. Or maybe you will finally learn to work together. Maybe you will stop depending on others to solve your problems. Maybe you will grow up. He started walking toward the huge doors that led out of the chamber. Captain Park walked beside him. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Every alien in the room watched them go. Nobody tried to stop them. Nobody begged them to stay. They all seemed frozen, like they could not believe this was really happening. Wait, the speaker called when Lee and Park were almost to the doors. You cannot be serious about this. Humans are not like this. Humans care about others. Humans want to help. Lee stopped walking and turned around one last time. Humans do care about others. That is why we have spent 50 years bleeding for you. But caring about others does not mean letting them treat you like garbage. It does not mean sacrificing everything for people who give nothing back. It does not mean being taken for granted forever. He looked around the chamber one more time at all the alien faces that had watched him report on so many battles fought for their safety, at all the creatures who had voted against human interests whenever it was convenient, at all the beings who had expected human sacrifice while offering nothing in return. You had 50 years to treat us as equals, Lee said. 50 years to show us respect. 50 years to be our partners instead of our masters. You chose to waste those years. Now you get to live with that choice. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. The last thing Lee heard was the speaker shouting something about humanity duty to the galaxy. But Lee was already thinking about going home to Earth. going home to his daughter who he barely knew, going home to help build something better than what they were leaving behind. As they walked down the long hallway away from the chamber, Captain Park asked, "Do you think we did the right thing?" Lee thought about all the human soldiers who had died in alien wars, all the human scientists who had given away their discoveries for free, all the human diplomats who had been ignored and dismissed, all the human families who had sacrificed so much for so little. "I think we should have done it years ago," he said. Outside the council building, human ships were already leaving. The age of humans as the galaxy servants was over. The age of humans living for themselves was about to begin.